Hey now, buongiorno, PASW staff, clients, friends joining us for Film Scoring Mondays. Welcome. Hope you guys had a good, well-rested weekend. So much to get to, and today's going to be tough because we're talking about arguably, some people say, the best movie ever made. Some people, like my brother, aren't super impressed with it. They could take or leave it, and I respect that. Some people can quote every line from it. Some people just don't really get it. Some people think it's too violent. Whatever. We're going to talk about the movie, and we're going to talk about your film scoring scene. Of course, this is Film Scoring Monday. If I can just back up, where you come up with your own score, and we'll talk about. There's going to be some guidelines a little bit, so we'll talk about that. But first, we need to know what kind of movie we're going to be scoring. If you haven't done this, play along. Send me a link or in a text or email of, hey, this music's going to fit perfectly in the scene, and I'll put that on Friday. So much fun. Today we'll be talking about Coppola's and Mario Puzo. We can't leave him out. The brilliant, iconic film, The Godfather. Not Godfather Part 3. We won't be doing that. Although there's some nice moments in that movie. We're going to be looking at Godfather Part 1, which came out in 1972. We'll talk about its importance. The cast, everyone's heard The Godfather. They think it's about the mafia. Here's what I think it's about. I don't think it's a gangster film at all. Unlike Goodfellas or like A Bronx Tale, other movies, this Godfather, I think Godfather elevates it to not a gangster film. It's a movie about, and I think this is why people like it. And let me know what you think. But I think it's a movie about decisions. This is the human condition, that we have to make decisions in our life. And many of those are painful, hard decisions we'd rather not face. And that's part of the problem, is making the decisions. The other part, and sometimes it's harder, is living with those decisions. Can we live with those decisions that we make? And The Godfather poses a question of our ability or inability to make decisions with our life. Whether it's taking the cannoli with us, or whether it's wiping out the entire 5 families, and being able to live with that. So I don't think of it as a gangster film. It's about a mafia family and what happens with them. But it's also, I think, higher level up about... It can relate to anybody, because we all make decisions and we have to live with those decisions. So that's kind of my kind of thesis on it, or my idea of it. Okay, we got to get to Staten Island. Let's go. Let's take a ride over there. We gotta get. Let's leave Hollywood. As much as I hate leaving Hollywood, it depresses me. Let's go to Staten Island. This is where the Corleone compound. They shot it all on location. This is where the compound is. It just came up for sale for $3 million. So if you want to go in half, we can buy it. And the Staten Island, of course, is where Statue of Liberty is on. So we all know the Godfather is played by the character is Vito Corleone, played by the 47-year-old Marlon Brando. Now he looks a lot older. They made him a lot older. And he's been parodied. Everything's been parodied. So you know where I'm kind of coming from a little bit. Composer is Nina Rota. Did a whole class on Nina Rota. we know all about Nino Rota, his collaboration with Fellini, and those wonderful melodies and circus melodies. And what makes this is that it's the movie so great. It's an authentic movie. I mean, Italians loved it, including the mafia people. They thought that Puzo and Coppola really got it right, and that's very strange, because usually when you portray somebody that it's always like, no, they didn't even get close. Now, that's also why Paramount liked Coppola, because for several reasons. He could work on the cheap, and this was a cheap movie. In fact, there's so many reasons why this movie shouldn't have worked out, and we'll talk about some of those reasons. But they also liked that Coppola was Italian. Nino Rota was Italian. Most of the actors were Italian. And if we think of why The Godfather is important, because this was the first Hollywood film that really portrayed Italians as not just low-level, uneducated, stereotypical people. This movie really helped change those negative stereotypes for Italian Americans. This was really the first that took them seriously, as opposed to just kind of they like spaghetti, and So 1972 comes out, and this movie elevates the stature of the Italian American community, and I think that's why they liked it too. So you're probably asking, is Mario Puzo's novel based on real events or real stories? I mean, yes and no. There's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of his imagination. There's characters that are based. Vito Corleone's pretty much based on Frank Costello, who was a real-life gangster and kind of the head of the mafia. Vito's kind of portrayed as not. The Corleone families, they're killers nonetheless, but they're kind of morally a little bit higher than some of the other ones, in the case of they don't want to get into narcotics or but Frank Costello was a very famous, well-respected a guy that made a lot of money in bootlegging, and there's a lot of parallels with. So that's who Marlon Brando's playing. They didn't want Marlon Brando. He was a pain in the ass, or he had a reputation for that. But I think he behaved okay, aside from pulling pranks all the time on the set and mooning people. The cast was very into mooning people. Don't really get that, but that's okay. Didn't want Michael. Didn't want Al Pacino at all. In fact, they laughed at him when he would be doing some of his scenes. They thought he was so bad. He was a Broadway guy and came off of Broadway, but he was so young. But they would literally giggle, off camera while he was. Can you imagine? Coppola worked with him a lot. That all changed when he did the famous scene in the restaurant where he shoots the Sollozzo and the police captain, Sterling Hayden. When that scene happened, people were. I think the cast and everybody took him very seriously as an actor. He kind of, it must have been a horrible time. They wanted Robert Redford instead of Al Pacino, but that didn't work out. And there were a lot of people that were cast and miscast and all that stuff. But so if we're talking about 1972, what other movies are coming out? Deliverance comes out. That's a big movie. This is still part of the new Hollywood that we've talked about, Scorsese and all those other people. Deliverance comes out. That's a pretty shocking movie. Great movie. But pretty adult-laced film. Pink Flamingos comes out. This is going to be John Waters' breakthrough. Again, pretty adult film. These aren't kid movies. These aren't movies for kids. We don't have Marvel movies coming out yet. Cabaret comes out, another great film. Megan and John love that movie, as do I, with Bob Fosse. So those are the movies that come out. So I mean, a lot of others, but I mean, some pretty good filmmaking coming out, because this was again part of the era when the studios were, okay, these new kids would know what they're doing because they're making us a ton of money. Let them go on and do these, stories. We can give them $6-7 million, and that's what Godfather's budget was, $6 to $7 million, and they're going to bring back $246 million, $246 to $287 million in the box office. I mean, this thing was so huge, but it was a nightmare to make. But I think Coppola was only 32 when he's directing this. So imagine, and they wanted to fire him every day. Imagine the stress. What he really liked to do was, in the beginning, they'd go up to this Italian restaurant, Patsy's, up in East Harlem, and they would rehearse for 2 weeks. And that's how the whole cast was there. And Marlon Brando was the older, veteran actor, and I think everyone was in awe because there's no greater actor, at least at that time. So they kind of already respected him as the Godfather, as the Don. But Coppola would have these dinners at the back restaurant in Patsy's in New York for 2 weeks, and they'd do rehearsals. They would do the lines. They would pass pasta around. He made it very, it's kind of like a home movie a little bit too. If you see, especially if you think of like the opening scene of the wedding, some of it is shot like a home movie. Now, Gordon Willis didn't want to shoot it because I think people kind of thought this was just going to be a gangster violent film. There is violence in it, but they really wanted to light it in a way that was this Baroque lighting. And if you look at how gorgeous that opening scene in Don's office, the Don's office is, it looks like a painting. Could look like a Rembrandt. I mean, they're so, the contrast of the lighting is so interesting, and the interplay between light and dark scenes throughout the movie. So you got this darkness in the Don's office. In Sicily, when Michael goes to escape, it's very bright. But this tableau format of filming to make it seem like a painting it was gorgeous lighting. And that cat was just a stray cat hanging around the set. And Marlon Brando picked it up, and it would not leave his lap. And so that's the significance of the cat, that he just thought, there's all this symbolism you can read in it, but and it was purring so loud it had to readjust the mics. Some of these are just kind of trivia facts that I thought, because a lot of us have seen this movie. So it's just a stray cat that he loved. And then, we know that whether it was Marlon Brando's memory or his eccentric behavior, but, he'd have cue cards, and I don't know, if he could not remember his lines or if he wanted it spontaneous, but, that's only something probably Marlon Brando could get away with. I think other actors would have been, and other directors would have been like, tough luck, sorry. I'm trying not to show too much graphic, but we all know that the horse's head was a real horse's head. Try getting away with that today, right? And Brando did the audition with the cotton in his mouth, but then when they filmed it, he actually had a mouth guard that was made for him. A dentist made it for him. And so this is the Don's the father, Michael, Sonny, Fredo, the brothers, Connie is the daughter, and they're all in the olive oil business, right? In the business of that's kind of and so the scene we're going to look at is his assassination attempt. It's not too violent. It's a little bit sad. So if you don't want to look at it, it's okay. It's not. It's a little. Fredo is the weak brother. He's the one. John Cazale plays him great. He's the one that is not going to be next in line for. He's too sensitive. He's too weak. He's too. I don't know how to describe him, but he's the only one there guarding the Don. So we're going to look at the scene, and this is after Don Corleone says to Sollozzo, the other mafia head, "We don't want to get into narcotics. It's dirty. We don't want to get into heroin, all that stuff." So he backs out on this deal, and because of that, they think, okay, we need to kill Don so we can go along with our drug deal because that's where the money is. So the Don wants to stop off and get some fruit. Now, there's also this whole thing about what is the orange. There's oranges everywhere. He's eating oranges throughout the whole movie. They just liked the color, and it's a nice contrast. There's no real anything farther than that, but it's a nice contrast with the dark imagery and the orange. It really sticks out, but it's really just they just liked oranges. So he wants to stop and get some fruit. And he sees guys approach him, and you see that Fredo is not really paying attention, and you see gunshots fired. So let's watch the scene as it is, as Coppola directed it. Very sad. Like I said, he doesn't die right there, so it's not. It was a failed assassination attempt, although it seemed very hard. He dies later in the hospital, but you see Fredo fumbling with the gun. He doesn't even know it came out of nowhere. Although you can see Don's eyes. He's one of those guys where he's got eyes behind his head. He's always ready and waiting to look. Interesting. So when the music comes in, it's Nina Roche's music. It's just like, an oboe and kind of some underscoring that's a little bit subtle. It kind of builds a little bit more. I wonder why Coppola wanted it there. So let's watch the scene without the music. Still pretty intense scene. Sad because you hear Fredo, his son, crying. What do you think? And here's going to be the challenge. This is in the 1940s, okay? Obviously, we know the movie comes out in 1972, but this is in the 1940s. I want you to come up with something that would fit that time period. A pop song from the 80s is not going to work. It doesn't have to be Italian, but it needs to be in the genre of the 40s. I've done a lot of classes on swing music, big band music. Now, it doesn't have to be happy. It can be folk music. Think of it, again, we talked about with Nino Rota on the score for this. It is like Italian folk music, some of his themes in it. Some of it is gorgeous romantic music that Nino Rota. You can listen to the soundtrack, of course, and get some ideas. But I do want it to be appropriate for, for an assassination attempt in this little Italy, Italian market where the Don is shot. And you can tell me if you want the music to start right at the beginning. Do you want it to start where Coppola had the music start? Where do you think would be the most effective when Fredo starts crying? You're gonna have to tell me when. I mean, if you want it from the beginning, that's fine. You don't have to say that. But I want something that fits in the vein of this. This could be put in the movie. This is not the opening credits. This is one of the biggest scenes that happens in the movie. The Don is shot. I mean, this is going to be, the brothers are devastated. This is going to change the mafia, the whole world, everything. So we're going to do great. But we need to get better each time. That's The Godfather. See it, watch it. Some people like part 2 better. They're all, it's amazing. I just wanted to give you a kind of pepper, some trivia and all that stuff. So get it to me by tomorrow. And gosh, we're just going to have fun with it. Love you. Miss you. See you tomorrow. Bye.